the way my house is. I'm very sorry. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our CTOs Roundtable. My name's Abby. For those of you who don't know, I work with Barry Cranford, who is the founder of the CTOs group, and I have the privilege of hosting today's event with Karl. For those of you who also don't know, London CTOs is just one of the communities that is run by RecWorks. We are a tech recruitment company with a huge difference. As a company, we believe that recruitment can really be a force for good in the industry beyond just placing people in jobs. We have a particular focus on learning, mentoring, and personal development. If people want to learn and others want to teach, we are more than happy to connect those people through our communities and events. We see this as giving back to those people we've worked with in the past, but also paying it forward to those we hope to work with in the future. To date, we have run over 700 events for engineers, developers, students, graduates, CTOs like yourselves. We have run conferences, lightning talks, hackathons, all sorts of different things. In January, we made our 4,000th introduction through our Meet a Mentor program, and we're really excited to see where that's going to go. As I've already said, we love to give opportunities for people to connect and share knowledge, and this event is part of that. If you would like to know more about our communities, please do get in touch with myself or Barry, and we can take it from there. But with no further ado, let me introduce Karl to you. He's from Navoda, and I will let him tell you a little bit more about himself before we launch into all these questions I've got for him.
Thank you, Abby. Can you hear me well? All good. So I had to set myself up in the meeting room. I hope there's not too much echo. So I'm Karl. I'm the founder and managing director and director of engineering of Navoda. We specialize in digital product, especially on mobile. So we build different mobile products for different companies. We've been around for about 14 years plus. And so I co-founded the business and now I'm running it. So that gives a quick introduction. I'm sure we're going to talk much more about, like the shape of the business and its intention. So I'm not going to introduce too much until some question comes along that might prompt more specific answers.
Thank you. Just to say as well, while Karl is speaking or I'm asking him questions, if you do think of something you want to know, please do put it in the chat. And then as we go through, if it's appropriate, obviously I will ask him as well. Sorry, bear with me 2 ticks. Lovely, thank you. So, sorry. So first of all, Karl, we've had a few questions submitted. So the first thing I think I would like to know is why, in your opinion, should someone look to become a B Corp? What's the point?
You see that, like, well, I've been asking myself that question a fair amount of time. I think there's 2 ways of seeing it. There's one which is, the data part, which says that, let's say, B Corp tend to grow significantly faster than non-B Corps. There's it's easier for recruitment, or it's better to find talent or clients. For me personally, it's mapped to a lot of my personal journey. And I before we go too much into details, I just want to state a couple of things. One is this is a journey we started about 6 months ago. Okay, so I can talk a lot about the intention and what this is all about and the journey that we are currently on. Maybe less so. I have an ability to talk about the end goal and what it gives us. I cannot say like, look, my business has tripled in size since we became a B Corp. And so it's more about the journey to get us there that this is about. And I mean, in 14 years of business, there's been a lot of ups and downs. And so in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of downs more than ups. And through that time, I've grown myself. I have 3 kids. I had some sounds in the background there. I've changed what I want from my professional career, from my life. I need more purpose. I need to be, to make my children proud, and so the journey of becoming a B Corp is as much about like my personal journey that I'm on in my life, as much as it is what is needed, I believe, both for the world to become a better company, to become something that has a positive and a good impact on society, the economy, and so forth. So why, it's as much as an easy and a hard question to answer. The why is very personal, but there's a lot of benefit that comes from becoming a B Corp. Some that I already see and feel apparent when I speak with people, and some that you can read up as well when you go on the B Corp website that kind of states numbers like, the average B Corp has a 4% growth year on year against, like, let's say 1% for the remainder of the industry. But for me, really, it was a personal journey that led me to where we are now today.
Cool, excellent. So off the back of that, I suppose, if in the process of becoming a B Corp, what kind of benefits have you seen so far, or do you expect to see from that change?
So what I've seen so far, the model in which we function, it's a standard kind of agency model in which you have, let's say, a rate card, and you structure a budget and you discuss with different clients and you pitch for the work and so forth. Fairly standard. I think the market in which we are in has become very competitive in the last 5 years. Again, providing mobile capabilities, let's say, to different clients of all shapes and size. And it became a bit of a race to the bottom. When the only thing you discuss, or when the only thing somebody looks at when they are evaluating a business is either the rates that you're offering mixed with, let's say, the quality that you can convince, the high quality you manage to convince on, that's one direction that we had as a business that didn't go so well in the last few years. As soon as you start talking about other topics, like the impact that you're trying to have on the environment, on the workers, on the environment, the way that you discuss your intention and purpose as a business, that shifts the conversation. And I found that fascinating in the last few years, especially that, the talking with corporate financing, M&A capabilities and so forth. It's quite like the change of the change of conversation, shifting from, like numbers like revenue and profit margin to what are you trying to do and why, has been really impressive, including in my own ambition on what I want to do with Novoda and how I want to drive Novoda forward. Bringing that purpose and this for good ambition into the business is one major benefit. And I think the second one as well, which is also really important to look at, is the ability to convince and attract talent. Again, we have a very competitive market for talent, especially tech talent. And having this ability to tell a different story is critical for the next, 5-10 years. Generally, I do not see any business in the next 5 years that do not have a good ability to describe what they are doing to make a better world. If that's not something that comes across either from their storytelling, the website, but also like in practicality, how they are structured, I'll be surprised if they still manage to attract talent. And so for me, there's a big shift that either comes from I don't know, the financial crisis, 2007, or COVID, and the push to move away from, let's say, shareholder capitalism to something that look at all the stakeholders, the workers, the environment, the how you're governed, and having a good answer to that is really critical to attract the talent that will then give you the ability to be more competitive and find the corresponding clients that want to work with you.
Great. So again, leading on from what you've just said, then, if anybody here's thought, okay, I've been thinking about becoming a B Corp, I think I might want to go for it, what does the process look like?
Okay, so maybe I give a quick introduction. B Corp is obviously is not charitable. It's a for-profit organization. The intention of B Corp is really to look at different stakeholders, which they organize around different groups, so like workers, governance, environment, community, and customers. So there is a structural validation on your business around those specific topic, and then you grade it. You're giving points in each one of them, and if you reach 80 points plus, you can be certified B Corp. The maximum points that there are 200, but no businesses can get all the 200 points. Okay, and so we have things that are maybe I would say low-hanging fruits. For instance, do you have career progression, a good description of the different jobs? Those are things that every business has to a degree or another as part of their how they run their business. But the more you do it in those topics, the more points you get. Okay, there's some others that are a bit more exotic, like who you bank with. So if you bank with a bank that has more of an ethical take on their banking, then you get points as well. And then there are some that are much more drastic. Let's say employee ownership, for instance. How are you structured as a business, and how much of your business is owned by your employee gives you another set of points. Okay, and so the process to become B Corp is one, you run, you just look at your business, and then you can go on their website. You can actually answer most of the question online already, and it gives you like a scoring on how you're doing. If you answer honestly, you'll probably be under the 80-point mark. I say that, I mean, like the first time we ran this, we were at 56 points, I think, if I remember correctly. And then obviously it gives you then indication on which part of the business you can change to impact the ratings and kind of elevate the rating. The intention, again, is like it's benefit corporation, is to look at all your stakeholders. It's a good like step-by-step ability for you as a business to try to become a better business, to become a business for good. It's not the answer to everything, but it gives you like a framework to structure yourself and aligning to different stakeholders that are not just your shareholder. Now, what we did, we work with a consulting company that specialized in B Corp certification and looking at how we function. They kind of evaluated how we function. It's called Better Not Stop, and they scored us, and then they have created a plan for us to change. Now, there's been a 400% increase in B Corp certification, I think, in the last year. Couple of years ago, the certification process was fairly quick. But nowadays, I think you have to look at something like 20 months from the moment you start looking at your business, evaluating it, giving yourself an initial scoring, tackling some of the kind of low-hanging fruit, and maybe some that are a bit more drastic in their change. That will take a couple of months, you see, and then from that moment to go into certification mode, that is like contacting B Labs, certifying, and then getting the certification and validating your behavior. You look at something that takes about 20 months plus, I reckon. Yeah. I can expand a bit. Again, we haven't gone through the entire process, just to be clear. We started the journey, so we have a plan. We know what we're going to look at. There's also the intention of changing the articles of incorporation as part of the business to kind of state specifically our intention of having a impact for good as part of who we are as a business. And all this it's an interesting journey. You see, it's like some questions are fairly easy to answer as a business owner, for instance, which is, like, can we create a better format for career progression or salary structure and so forth. And some are a bit more challenging and difficult, which surround, let's say, shareholding and company ownership. But all that is again, it's a nice journey to be on. It gives me the framework to be able to talk about this in a way that I can be part of a bigger community. Does that answer? I mean, like, again, like I found actually the way to become a B Corp and be certified is I won't say easy journey. It's an interesting journey. It's quite well defined in the website, like the B Corp website, and even the ability to just answer yourself through their system on how you view your own business, and then getting it validated and give you the score. It's an easy process to go through, and then you can also check out the score of every other businesses that has been certified. The moment you're certified, from recollection, you need to recertify every 3 years and sending a report every year to kind of keep the certification.
That's really helpful, Karl. Thank you. Really good to know. So what kind of impact does this have then on, like, your sales cycles and that side of things? Does it have any impact at all, or has things had to change in that sense?
I'm happy to say that we've already seen some impact, even though we're not even certified yet. Like changing the language, changing the way that the story that we tell about ourselves, and coming in some pitches gives us maybe a bit of an edge. And that's quite an interesting one. It's something that we haven't really done in the past. And I see the tension there, because on one end, the way, like, the services that we sell, okay, hasn't changed that much. It's more why and the intention of the business that has changed. And so the journey matters. The journey matters for people. The journey matters for even within a pitch where you talk about yourself and what somebody should work with you. Elevating the language of B Corp has had a positive impact, especially when you pitch to other B Corps, which we were lucky to do. You see, so there's more and more companies that are certifying for B Corp. And as part of that, I think there's a shift in the market towards focusing not only on rates or quality, is focusing on the wider impact that you have as a business and as an organization. And so we did see a change. I cannot say that, like, we have a huge amount of our current clients that are either B Corp or certified B Corp. But there's an ambition from our North Star goal, for instance, that have a good portion of our revenue that is generated by business that have good intention. And obviously, going after B Corp kind of aligns to that, but it's not the only one. But, like, how do you structure work or clients that align to, let's say, the UN development goals, for instance, is one. On the other side of the coin, you also should then question the work that are not necessarily aligning to those goals, which is something we've been discussing internally, and that's also a bit of a challenging journey. Like the B Corp website, for instance, lists some contentious business models as part of the ones that might get less point. Let's say, for instance, the gig economy or Swiss banking, which tends to not be very transparent, or the gig economy that doesn't necessarily care enough for the workers. So then, like, as part of an agency that function and work with other clients, how do we decide which clients we want to work with? And that's something we started as an organization, and I would hope that, let's say, in the next 18 months, we'll see a big shift of our client base that then have similar goals and ambition. And we have we modeled that somehow in our rates. So obviously, businesses that have an inclination of doing good, we will probably match or reduce our rates in order to work with those type of companies. But so we've seen a shift in the way that we talk about ourselves and the way that we pitch that has a positive impact that comes directly from our ambition of becoming a B Corp and how we talk about ourselves. But as I mentioned before, this is the start of a journey rather than we haven't arrived at the destination yet. It's a very interesting and fun journey. But as we go through this journey and see changes in the way that we speak ourselves, that has the most impact on the relationship that we have with our current and future clients.
Great. So in your opinion then, in the next sort of 2 to 5 years, what will the B Corp landscape look like? What do you think that's going to be like in 2 to 5 years-ish?
You see, like, I'm not sure, like, how when you start the journey, then you see it everywhere. I mean, like, I remember walking in Spain, there was a hotel that had like the B Corp certification, and then you kind of like get chocolate from the store and it's B Corp, and then you go to Waitrose. I think they had a store that says like B Corp specific. Shampoos, you know, like all kinds, and you see like B Corp popping up everywhere. I think Coutts, for instance, the bank, the Queen's Bank was certified last year, B Corp, and you kind of like pose yourself a question on how and why and so forth. But then you go on the B Corp website, and you can look at the impact assessment, the scoring, where they're doing good, where they're doing less good, and so forth. Now, I have to be honest, for a agency or companies that work in the digital space, it's probably easier to certify. I mean, where there's more harder certification is when you look at your supply chain and you need to validate the workers right along your supply chain. I suppose that certification might be a bit more challenging than a company like Novoda. But the point being here is that there's a movement, and I can feel it as being a movement. Again, I'm not sure if it's because, you know, I started the journey and now I see it everywhere, but the growth of 400%, for instance, year on year on like B Corp certification or companies applying to become a B Corp is fascinating. It's really a push, I think, that is not, you know, at the B Corp level. You see it as well from you know, terminology like stakeholder capitalism that comes up. There's also a shift in the generations, you know, it's like the newer generation are more selective of who they want to work with and so forth. So for me, it's like we are moving away from a capitalism that probably worked to a certain degree, but have created a lot of inequalities. And we have some fundamental challenges ahead of us. I mean, we talk about 5 years, you know, some of part of the Paris Agreement for climate change is like 2030. It's 8 years from now. It's not that far off that we really have to tackle some of the big issues of our time. And so, you know, it cannot only happen through government structure or regulation. It needs to come from society and from businesses like mine, for instance, playing a tiny part of us trying to do something better. And I think this is a full movement that will come from all places, from communities or from society, from regulation and so forth, that try to align, you know, businesses to better goals and better outcomes. And so 2 to 5 years from now, I reckon that B Corp will become much more common. I mean, you'll see it. I already saw it advertised in London, you know, on bus stops, you know, to give you like it's starting to become part of the public consciousness. I mean, just starting, I reckon. But in 5 years, I think it will be much more common. The customer will be selective on the brand that they choose either to buy or to work for. And so if you as a business or like anything as a market, as an industry, have not gone through the journey of deciding how you want to have a positive impact, being B Corp or other, you'll have a difficult time selling to consumers or attracting the talent. So basically, to just, long story short, there's going to be more and more B Corp out there. This is part of a global movement to try to resolve some of the fundamental challenges that are in front of us. And for that, basically, you need tools, you have step-by-step guides, you need task list-based structure to shift the business like mine, and it's a small business. I don't think that my business is that difficult to shift to B Corp model. If you talk about much bigger multinationals like Danone or similar, that's probably much more challenging. But everyone can do their bits, okay? And so everyone can then have a way to accredit yourself, saying, okay, well, we are trying to do better, and this is the way that we are trying to be a better business. And I reckon that every business will go through that at some point in their existence, because it is a shift in consumer either appetite or willing to understand how they interact with brands and companies.
That's definitely something I think I've noticed as well myself in the last couple of years, definitely, like even just on a personal perspective of, am I sure I want to still shop with this company or that company, or who is doing their bit or trying to do their bit that's better for the environment or better for the people who are working for them, or all those considerations. They definitely are becoming more conscious for us, I think, aren't they? Especially in the last couple of years, we're definitely moving in that direction.
And also that there's it's like there's also a huge market, that is being created to tackle those challenges. Okay, so this is not charitable. B Corps are not charities that are just trying to solve the world problem. Is still working within a capitalist structure. Okay, and if the difference is to try to function and look at the different stakeholders rather than just shareholders. So, and as part of that, there's a lot of money being put into, let's say, the UN development goals, like looking at sustainability, like there's huge amount of investment going into those domains, and having the ability to state explicitly your direction as a business, aligning to those goals, has a positive impact in how I see at least Novoda either finding the clients or working with the clients that has a positive impact. And at the end of the day, it just feels better, isn't it? Like it feels better that you participate in doing good rather than either just doing what I felt in the last couple of years, which has been struggling a lot of just driving a business forward. It's a lot of work. I want to feel purposeful when I wake up. I want to feel that I'm participating in solutions that will make this world a better place. And I don't think I necessarily felt that, at least in the last 5 years, as part of our transformation, as part of like finding. Actually, one of our director of product who came work with us bought me he introduced the idea, you see, like as a seed in my head, by coming with the B Corp handbook, and also bought me the book called Let My People Go Surfing from Patagonia. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Ivan Shopina, I think is the name of the Patagonia founder. And that really gave me a renewed energy on managing the business and driving the business forward. And it feels good, it feels good to wake up with purpose.
Yeah, excellent. You can tell as well, like the way you're speaking, I can tell that you obviously do love your company, you love what you do, you know there's that driving force behind you. Like, yeah, it's very clear when you're speaking that's in there, which is amazing. So in your opinion then, Karl, how can we build a stronger community of engineers who want to work in tech for good? Is it only down to companies, or is it down to personal choice? Is there a mix? What are your thoughts on that?
You see, like that has been constantly on my mind, because on one hand, we talk about Bcorp as a structure, or like stakeholder capitalism as a structure. I love technology. I've always been a proponent of technology. In my younger years, I remember thinking, like the internet will solve, every societal problems. There's going to be peace on, there's peace on earth with the internet, like at the end of the 90s. And kind of like my early days dabbling in that world was magnificent, and it really grew me. Is there anything specific around technology when we look at the Bcorp assessment? Not really. Or at least not majorly. There are bits and pieces, like let's say workers' rights, and like it's not as if the tech industry has a challenge when it comes to paying its workers the correct salary, but like looking at stuff like, let's say, gig economy and so forth. So where are we going as an industry, as a tech industry? Is where's that going, and where does that align to some of the efforts we're doing about tech for good, let's say, or business for good? And that's something I've been questioning myself generally. Okay, let me just 2 seconds to find my thoughts here correctly, because I remember trying to present this back as the reasoning as to why we're becoming a Bcorp at Novoda to the engineers. And you always have this kind of like, what does that mean from a technology perspective? Actually, not much, but what does technology have to do with the solution of the future? A lot, and so how do we apply technology and engineering correctly to build solutions that are having a positive impact? Now you have some project that do, let's say, hosting, like website hostings that are net neutral, for instance. They might have a small impact. I don't believe they will have a major impact. But then you have like other technologies like cryptocurrencies and similar that uses a huge amount of electricity, and you have to question yourself as, let's say, as leader in the in technology. Is that right? Are we doing the correct thing for a better world? Should I participate in the discourse? Should I have an opinion? Should I care about like the environment as part of my decision making? And obviously, if you look at Bcorp, the answer is yes, you should care about it. Okay, so like, and it doesn't say, choose technology A over B, but it's taking into account different stakeholders, including the environment, as part of your decision. Okay, and so technology has a really important place when it comes to finding good solutions for the future. And so how does this play with our current setup as an industry? I'm not 100% sure yet. What I notice is that a lot of, let's say, design agency or product agency, there's many more of those companies that are Bcorp certified than, let's say, tech companies specifically. And I feel like tech companies might like push those questions away a bit, because either it's uneasy to answer, let's say scale-ups and burnouts, for instance, those type of questions, like your responsibilities towards the workers, or like the gig economy, or GDPR, for instance, and privacy. Like, how do you function within those realms, and putting them in front of your culture and how you behave and how you think is one that I can see where there's an influence of Bcorp into my decision making. But then at the same time, you can say, well, Karl, I won't say you're a bit fake here, but like you're also in the service industry. Yeah? So I'm servicing other clients. So can I impose my values to the clients that I'm currently working on? That's a difficult one, because I'm also, I have to generate revenue and I have to run the business in a certain way. But you can then educate and try to drive some of the decision, or make them into the forefront, and even like concluding how much are you ready to let's say, not work with someone specifically because of some of the values that the Bcorp brings into the business, or decide, let's say, that it's okay because we're not trying to solve the entire world's problem in one go, but at the same time directionally trying to go somewhere else. I mean, I'm quite some of my other director, he's really into sustainability and the environment. I'm more around like privacy, and surveillance capitalism as a challenge of our age. And so how can I structure myself or my business to align to goals that might take that into consideration rather than just assuming and accepting how the industry is today? I'm not sure if I'm answering the question well. I have to say that I haven't a full answer yet myself. I haven't figured it out specifically what Bcorp means when we talk about technology. And I'm like, if anyone here in this roundtable wants to kind of chip in and have a say, I would love to have a conversation around that, because I think the tech has such an important factor in the next 20, 30 years of coming up with answers to help our society being better talking to each other, or solving, like the climate crisis through being more intelligent with our grid system, or, using less electricity or planting trees or whatnot. And having the ability to be part of that is important to me, and it's important that my business goes towards that direction. How is something that I'm not 100% clear as just yet.
Absolutely fair enough. I'm finding it really interesting to hear you speak about all this, Karl, just because obviously it's good for us to hear about and, find out what it looks like, and with the fact that you're still on the journey to becoming a B Corp, it's not, here's what I've done and here's how you do it. It's, well, I'm still working this bit out and I'm working that bit out. And I think that's a lot of what we do anyway, isn't it? Is, well, you have to work things out for them to then work. So it's brilliant. It's great. I'm really enjoying hearing from you about this, definitely. If anybody does have any questions, do feel free to chip in or put them in the chat. If you want me to ask them instead, that's absolutely fine. Like, more than happy to do that. But just to continue, Karl, what sort of difference will becoming a B Corp, or has becoming a B Corp, or starting that journey, what kind of difference has that made to your life as a CTO so far?
Well, one is like answering all those questions. As you were speaking, I kind of remembered like the amount of introductions, I think, like talking with other people that are trying to do things differently, okay, has brought up a lot of decisions that I have to do on a day-to-day, and I've been challenging on that. This is like from structuring teams, for instance, and looking at mental health, burnouts, and so forth, being a bit more conscious about team behaviors. I think that's one that it's kind of constantly on our mind, because we work with several scale-ups, and so taking into account wellness, also diversity and inclusion as part of how we recruit, how we think about a good team structure, and so forth, probably the ones that is most specific in the B Corp certification that we care about. Environment is another one that is, you might try to shoehorn in, but how much CO2 are we emitting? Can we reduce on that? Even like working remotely, that impact on either the workers and our like how much carbon we emit by not traveling or using the electricity at home, are all like questions that I don't believe I necessarily, as a curiosity, I might have had that in the past, but they become more prevalent now, because one, the certification will give us different points if we're more explicit about trying to reduce our CO2, our carbon emission, but at the same time, like being more specific or explicit about, let's say, our wellness program and diversity and inclusion program, for instance, as part of the business. So I think that kind of that has a significant impact generally around the business, but that's the one that is probably more on the change on my look at when I look at from my like interim kind of director of engineering structure as I stand right now. I would be curious to see anyone talking about, let's say, technology itself, how let's say how some technology might use more or produce more carbon than others, or be more polluting than others, and taking that as part of your decision mechanism. But that's not something, or is not really in the field that we are involved in today that I could really talk about. But I can see that there might be some movement towards those direction. There's more like green hostings and similar, or cloud computings that are more green, let's say, than others. And I think that similarly, as a CTO in an organization, that you might be more involved in those decision-making mechanism of choosing, let's say, a hosting provider similar. I reckon that if you're on your journey of either becoming a Bcorp or you're a Bcorp, will probably be topics that you will discuss internally and then decide accordingly, is my guess. But I would say, for me, it's more about the people within Novoda, and how I care more about like the impact of the work that we do with them, and potentially, that's probably the one that has shifted the most in our journey to become Bcorp than anything else.
Excellent. I love it. We have had a couple of bits come up in the chat. I don't know if you can see those, but we've had a question around how to recruit engineers into this space. Is it good enough just to tag a role as Tech for Good on LinkedIn, or is there an existing community of purpose-led engineers to tap into?
Well, we've been working with Barry and RecWorks. On that regard, I think, again, generally, I really enjoy the conversation when it's about Tech for Good as part of the recruitment process. One, because it's selective. Okay, I'm not all. I'm not necessarily an activist, but I think like not all businesses align to the goals that we have as a business. Each business has its own purpose and intention. Ours is to tackle some of the challenges of our future society. And as part of the recruitment process, that topic is important. And I can clearly see in conversation when a candidate brings this up as being an important factor for the recruitment process itself. And again, that shifts the optimism and wants of bringing those people into Novoda, or Novoda being a good place for them to join, because it will become it will predominantly be how we function as a business. So obviously, if there's alignment there, that's a good thing. When it comes to a specific place to recruit, I know there are some Slacks that kind of like align to technology for good, which has some job boards. I haven't actively looked there per se, so I couldn't comment too much if it's a good tool or not. We've gone more like the route of using RecWorks and Barry to tell our story as well as part of the process, and that has given some really good candidates that already align to our purpose and wants, and then as such gives us a talent pool that is interesting. And I believe at least for us, is our USP a bit, because if you look at the website as it stands, we're going to change it, but we were not necessarily the most exciting company if you look externally. But I believe that we have some really interesting people as part of Novoda, You have obviously a very motivated managing director and founder to drive the change. We have some really interesting directors that are currently at Novoda and some that are joining us. And all this gives purpose to what we do. And that journey is exciting and is fun. And if you manage to tell that correctly, it's very attractive, I reckon, to a lot of people who are seeking a bit more excitement and purpose in their professional career that goes beyond just tech. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. Fantastic. So I think you've kind of answered one of my questions as well already, but I'm going to ask a slightly different one. So again, with the decision of making the journey towards being a B Corp, what difference has been made to decisions that you have to make on a daily, weekly, whenever kind of basis? Like, has there been much change in that aspect of your time so far, of your journey so far?
Okay. I would say one thing: strategy is difficult. Okay. I mean, owning and driving a business is challenging and difficult. Having team, engineering team or design team or whoever team is challenging and difficult. There's a journey of ups and downs that are occurring along the way. And then adding on top of that task list for how to become a B Corp can be challenging as well. But it's the drive that is the most impressive, the way that we've changed. I mean, again, like in the last 6 months, our entire model of how we function as a business has shifted. And it's as much as us stating openly like I'm doing here, but just generally towards our employees as well. And we started to do that with our client, that we have this ambition and intention of becoming a better business. And that translates in literally every decision that we are having from the clients that we work with. And we still get clients, let's say, that might not align that well to our ambition. And then there's the challenge of discussing internally, do we really want to work with, let's say, the potential client or not? And how do we commit to this journey while still being a business that functions? And it's challenging, but that's also, I would say, the fun of it. You see, I have no problem in failing, in running, like in my business failing, as long as I tried to do something better. There's a lot of beauty and actually freedom in thinking like that. I mean, it's harder if I was really attached to the business and or attaching to, let's say, the revenue and stuff like this of the business. Here, I'm willing to go any direction as long as we shift for something that is better than what it is today. One, because of my own journey in my life, but also because I truly believe that the future, if you do not have that messaging as to why your business is different and what you're doing as part of solving some of the world problems, you'll be outcompeted by those who've gone through that journey. And so I feel it like as it's a fundamental shift that I need to do in order to still remain competitive. And so if it does not change my decision-making on a daily basis, on a constant basis, I'm doing something wrong. I'm happy to say it's not just me, by the way. I have a very strong leadership team as it stands today, which helps me in this journey. But so the decision of that shift, some are easier than others, are prevalent on nearly every decision we are doing. And my leadership pushed me very hard on some of the more fundamental questions, like, let's say, employee ownership or profit sharing or total reward structure that kind of rethink the capitalist model. For instance, it's like attention is one for me is around shifting from shareholder to stakeholder. Okay, so shareholder at the moment is like, since the 80s, is really like any business intention should be about maximizing shareholder profit. In this case, me, my business, which I think is fundamentally incompatible with stakeholder capitalism. If we say we want to maximize like the benefits that we do to all the stakeholders, being work environment, communities, and so forth, you'll have to rethink the way that the business is structured and how you redistribute. You see, like the revenue generated potentially, with stuff like 1% for the planet or similar. But that journey, you see, is a difficult one, is one that I need to come to terms with and feel good about. But as part of that journey, I've been introduced to fascinating companies that have done that already. And just that, just that experience of talking with people that have done better than me so far is fascinating. I spoke with an IT company, for instance, that recruited people from background that might not have the abilities to work, either from ex-criminals or substance abusers and so forth. And it's fascinating to talk with people that are trying to solve problems for either individuals or carve themselves a specific place within this market and succeeding at that. So like I want to be, as I said, this is still the journey. I'm talking the talk. I'm crawling. I'm not walking yet. But like getting the other side in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, and thinking to myself, wow, what the journey, and this is how we are functioning now, is a fascinating one to have just in the back of my mind. And so yeah, I'm really enjoying how the shift has enabled me to meet some really interesting people and rethink what I want from Nuvoda, but also how that can then map to what I want for my own personal life.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. I love it. Just before I bring us to a close, has anybody else got any further questions for Karl while we're still here? Okay. In which case, it only leaves for me to say, on behalf of RecWorks, thank you so much, Karl, for coming and being willing to talk to us about all of this. And thank you to everybody who's joined us today. It's been really great to see you. And I hope we'll see you at our next CTOs event. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Thank you so much, Abbi. No worries. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.